The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 29th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by our fat managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt's been telling me these stories about how much food he ate on Thanksgiving. So I'm expecting to see a little bit of at least some cheeky cheeks here by the time we get to next week as he finishes consuming his leftovers from his Thanksgiving dinner. But there's a hope that the Miami Hurricanes will be feasting on some Syracuse Orangemen this weekend up there at the Carrier Dome, the entire season on the line, Matt. And man, I'll tell you, sometimes you kind of earn your pressure, and Miami did when it stumbled at Georgia Tech, and now this is the whole season on the line on Saturday. If you, I mean, it's win or go home, really. I mean, you win, you're in the ACC championship game, a chance to go to the college football playoff, maybe even a chance to make the college football playoff, regardless of what happens in the ACC championship game. If you lose, you're going home and waiting a week or so for somebody to tell you what bowl game you're going to go to that nobody's going to care about, that half your team's not going to want to play in. It would just be an abysmal end to what's been a really exciting, entertaining season thus far. So, Matt, I kind of look at Mario Cristobal's history in big games. And he's done a pretty good job at Oregon preparing the Ducks for their bigger games that they've played. And usually when he gets into these, backed into a corner situations, he tends to lean on the physicality that is the foundation, the fabric of the culture that he has laid at the Miami program and that he always lays no matter where he's been. And he runs the ball quite a bit. And I'm expecting some of that, I think, on Saturday, because, you've got, Fletcher Martinez healthy. You've got Jordan Lyle, who emerged like crazy. It seems to me that as much as we're talking about the Syracuse passing game this week, and as respectful as we are of the Syracuse offense, that maybe this is a game where Miami looks to take a little bit of pressure off of its defense by controlling the football, pounding it down the field, wearing out Syracuse, so that even if it is a close game going into the fourth quarter, that you have positioned yourself to take that thing over in crunch time. Your thoughts?
Oh, good job giving away Shannon Dawson's game plan, genius.
I don't know what his game plan is. I'm saying,
I think it's pretty obvious. On the road, loud atmosphere, they're going to try to establish the run and then go to the pass. Especially, they want to avoid silly mistakes because, like I said on the last time we did this show 50 years ago, the only way they're going to lose is if they have turnovers and dumb turnovers and make these same mistakes as the last game that kept it closer to the fourth quarter. So if you want to avoid that, generally speaking, it's been Cam Ward with some silly turnovers, as great as he's been. There's been some uncharacteristic fumbles like Xavier Restrepo, but the running backs have been excellent. The offensive line's been excellent. Syracuse, their weakness, they don't stop the run particularly well, so there's no reason they shouldn't be trying to run the ball. But first you mentioned Thanksgiving. I just want to, just so people understand why I'm the way I am. When I grew up, I grew up in New York, and like my parents would never turn on the heat, I guess because it was expensive. I don't know. But it was freezing. And I was always the first one up to go to school in the morning. And, I'd literally have to stay under the blankets for 10 minutes. I'd run to the thermostat to turn it on and then be under the blankets for 10 minutes. It's 30, 40 degrees outside. It's 50 degrees in the house. So I put the heat on to where it's bearable to actually get out of bed and move around a little bit. So, for years, and then my father would turn on the heat and leave it on starting on Thanksgiving. So for years growing up, I thought Thanksgiving meant we're giving thanks because my father turning on the heat. I didn't understand the whole premise of it until I learned about it in, I don't know, fourth grade, whenever they teach you in school. I don't know. They teach some fake history about how the Indians loved us and we didn't actually kill them all without a disease, which is a much better history than the truth. So I subscribe to that true history. And here's something I wanted to bring up on the show, because I was just thinking about this. Because I was with my wife's family. I had a lot of time to think. I didn't, no one wants to talk to this, right? So I'm just sitting there doing nothing. And here's what I thought. And tell me if I'm wrong, okay? I believe in the NFL and in Major League Baseball and other sports, there's incentivized postseasons, right? Like, and not just postseasons, but if you hit a certain yard mark in a year, you get X amount of money, right? You get this many touchdowns, you get this amount of money. They write this stuff into your contracts. You're the MVP, you get this amount of money. You go to a playoff game.
Bonuses,
the NFL actually, I believe, pays every single player and every single team on the roster just to be in the playoff games. Am I correct? I'm pretty sure
they get it. They get extra money. Correct.
Okay. Here's my issue. NIL deals, my understanding is they're paid every month, right? So you sign an NIL deal and you get a certain amount of money every month deposited into your bank account. I happen to know, and I'm sure you do too, I'm not sure if fans understand this, kids, when they're young, love playing football. It's their favorite thing to do. When they get to college, it's a job. It's not easy. They're losing time with their family, with their friends. Their body hurts. You heard Mario Cristobal last press conference, right? He says everyone's hurt right now. Everybody's hurt all around the country. Nobody's healthy. And it's not easy. It's not fun. I'll never forget Tyreek Stevenson telling us he doesn't want to play football anymore, but he does it for his sisters and for his mother. That's why these guys are playing. It does their body no favors. Former NFL players can't walk. They're in constant pain. They can't get out of bed. You could ask them. Now, with that as the backdrop, okay, and I understand a lot of college football players certainly enjoy the sport. They still do. But some, it's a job. Many, it's a job. And many of them, they want to go to the NFL and just survive college to get to the NFL, to get to that point where that real money is, to support them for the rest of their lives. Because let's face it, $500,000, as much as it sounds like it is to somebody making $4 an hour, that doesn't last your whole life if you don't have a skill set necessarily to do anything other than football. And not that they don't, but some don't, okay? Okay, that's the backdrop. Now here's where I don't enjoy this. There are teams out there, right, with players out there who are thinking to themselves, I'm getting paid every month. I'm not getting paid by the game. I can get hurt, a major injury that'll cost me an NFL this round, that round, maybe not get drafted if I get a major injury. And I'm playing games for free in the postseason because the new system this year, you're playing 3, maybe even 4 with a conference championship game, extra games than you would if the season just ends and you get drafted and you're done. So they're not getting paid to play in these games anymore. It's the way it used to be, right? Once the playoffs hit, it's free. They're playing for free because they signed a contract that they're going to play for the season and they get paid every month. So it doesn't surprise me when you see some teams in the SEC that just seem to be uncharacteristically how they lose that game. Why are they playing like this? Why is this player doing terrible? And even on Miami, I'm not going to point out names, but there are guys on Miami that now have been benched that just haven't been playing well, one in particular. Is it because of that? I don't know. But when somebody thinks they're going to be make all this money and the only thing that's going to stop that is getting hurt or playing too many games and maybe having bad film after you had great film, that's a problem. And, not that it's going to happen in Miami, but it's going to happen to some team around the country where they're going to have players that are talking to each other and it's not a secret, right? Like, dude, I can't get hurt. Dude, we're playing 3 games extra and now we're playing 17 games in a season. Like, I don't know that my body's going to hold up. I already can barely walk. I get out of bed in the morning. I'm dying here. I don't know at what point a guy who thinks he's going to be in the NFL's first 3 rounds says, I'm going to half-ass it this game. I don't care if it's a playoff. Because like we talked about last show, these are not Miami fans. These are not Alabama fans. These are not guys who, for the most part, grew up dreaming of being my Miami Hurricane, right? They've taken 45-plus players in the last 3 years out of the transfer portal that said, I don't love Miami. I'm going somewhere else to start my career. And then, now I'm going to play for Miami because they're paying me. They're hired mercenaries. And that's not just Miami, but everywhere. So I want fans to be aware, when you're watching these playoff games, when you're watching these conference championships, you see people lollygagging and you're like, why do they look so slow? Why do they look so bad all of a sudden? I think it's because of that. You might think I'm crazy. But I honestly think these players get inside their own heads sometimes, and their family members don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. The minute, and coaches will tell you this, the minute you start thinking don't get hurt is when you get hurt. The minute you start going slow is when you have a problem. But these guys, I'm telling you, some of them in these postseason situations, I wish they would get paid to play in the game. I wish they would be told, we are buying the insurance policy for you. So if anything happens, you are taken care of the rest of your life. You don't have to worry about the NFL. I wish that would happen, but it hasn't. It doesn't. And I think that needs to be fixed. And I think it needs to be addressed by the NCAA because it's not the way the system should be, especially when you look at, like we talk about NFL, Major League Baseball, other major sports, they take care of their players, in these situations. And in the NCAA, they are not. So I'm not thrilled about that. I just want to bring that up.
All right. Thank you for doing that, dude. Dude, I got something to tell you. Okay. This is the Miami Hurricanes that we're talking about here. The Miami Hurricanes' entire season is on the line on Saturday at the Carrier Dome. And if there's anybody up there that's worried about anything else, then they need to do you and Mario and everybody else a favor and not even get on the plane.
Forget that. Do you think I'm right or do you think I'm wrong? I'm not saying Miami. I'm saying big picture, any school out there.
Right. I think you're right.
Is that not a problem for this playoff structure they've created? Without paying, every player in a playoff game should get paid by the NCAA. So they should each get 30 grand or 50 grand or whatever just to be in the game. And you know what? That player can use that money to pay for their insurance policy for one game if they want to. Like that's what it should be, but they don't do that.
I think you're right with teams that don't really have anything to play for. I think without a doubt.
Well, those players opt out. They're not opting out.
But
see, that's the thing.
Even the ones that are playing out the season here.
No, you just hit the nail on the head, right? If Miami's in a regular bowl game, right? I don't think Cam Ward plays. I don't think a lot of those guys play if they're in a regular bowl game.
No chance.
Right. So it's sort of like are they being forced to play in the playoffs? Like I don't know how to phrase it. It's a weird thing to make them, I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but it annoys me. I wish they were rewarded just like the team's being rewarded for making it. They helped us get there. And now it's like, well, now you're on your own. You're not getting paid for these games, but just go play and hopefully you don't get hurt. Like, no, they should get paid. They should have an insurance plan bought for them.
Dude. I was trying to comment on what you said. Now, I think that it makes sense for the teams that have nothing to play for. Maybe a Syracuse, for example. And I don't know how many guys that they have on their team that are NFL, potential NFL draft picks. I haven't really studied them to that degree up and down the roster. But
you're not understanding. The Syracuse players have to play and have to put up good tape. That's part of their NIL deal. They play the season. What's not in these NIL deals is in the NIL deal, you can't just opt out of regular season games. But the NIL deal doesn't say you have to play every playoff game because we know they opt out of bowl games. We know they opt out whenever they want after the season's over. So Colin McCord's not going to sit there and be like, oh, I just want to go to the NFL and not get hurt because in his contract, he has to play in that game, right? You can't just sit out or quit during the regular season. And at that point, does he want to put bad film out there? No, because that will make nobody wants to put bad film out there when they have to play. I'm saying when you don't have to play, that's when it becomes a problem.
Why
you are not making money?
Worms. You're talking about teams that are in bowl games that are meaningless and stuff like that. Of course, guys are gonna opt out.
Right, but I thought you were talking about this week's game. Syracuse players aren't going to try because they don't want to get hurt. Is bad NFL film.
No, because they're still looking to put quality.
Maybe. I mean, look. The truth is, maybe Miami players, Alabama play, whoever the hell's in the playoffs, not Alabama, but whoever it is. I mean, that's true. They don't want to put out bad film also. So they're sort of forced to try and perform their best. But it's just my point is it's a bad system. They should get rewarded for it. They should have insurance policies bought for them. And it's not right. That's my point.
I'm sure that the smart guys already have insurance policies. I don't see this as a major issue. I see the major issue being Miami going up there, playing a clean game this weekend, winning and getting to the ACC championship game.
All right.
And I'm like everybody in the building, man. That is all I'm focused on. I'm not trying to cure cancer in the world of college football this week, okay? Miami's waited a long time for this. The last time they made it to the ACC title game, they weren't really built to succeed there. This time, I think they are. This is a grand opportunity. Miami has never won the ACC championship. This is their chance to do it. It starts this weekend up at Syracuse, and I don't really know, how Lance Guidry is going to approach this game. And by the way, you do owe him an apology because you made a mistake the other day.
Yes. I meant to say yes.
I'll make the fork so that you can eat some crow and apologize to Lance Guidry, please.
Yes. Can I do that now?
Right now. Go.
Right. Mr. Guidry, I'm so sorry that I didn't know what dressing was. No, that's not what I'm apologizing for. I said that Syracuse was a 50-50 run-pass offense when Lance Guidry said it was a pass-first offense. It is 100% a pass-first offense, 60% of the time passing. I looked at the wrong numbers. I am, as everyone knows, a moron. Luckily, no one listens to me except for one person who pointed it out to us. So, yes, I absolutely made a mistake. And you know what? I think Lance Guidry probably normally is right. It's like me saying something about the federal deficit when Janet Yellen or somebody said something about federal, about the money situation. Like, who knows better? I don't know anything. Like, I thought that was the premise of the show, is that Gary and I, well, not Gary, but I know nothing, and I just speak. And if people aren't supposed to actually listen to me and think I'm actually factual, I just make stuff up, just like when I write my stories.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to clear that up.
Yes.
And he does sincerely apologize, Lance, for screwing that up. But anyway, so Lance Guidry, he's like in a little bit of a predicament this week, I think, because the best way to beat Syracuse is going after Kyle McCord and pressuring him into mistakes. The best way to play defense for Miami is probably not that, because when you do that, you are leaving yourself a little exposed on the back end. And I've spoken about this on this show for several weeks now. I think Lance Guidry has been protecting his personnel by not being reckless with safety blitzes and corner blitzes and things like that overly stress his secondary, that we all know is not the strength of the team. So he's got some tough decisions to make this Saturday. I have no idea which way he goes, but I do think that a big key to this game is making sure that you're on Kyle McCord's first read, and the way to pressure him into mistakes is by getting guys after him. And if Miami could do it with a 4-man rush, it's going to bode really, really well for the Canes, I think, on Saturday. And I think we'll be flying to Charlotte next week. You agree, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I put my predictions on the message board. I think Miami wins by a touchdown. I don't think the weird thing to me, and I was talking about a big booster about this the other day. The booster I talked to said that he thought the line would be 4 points when it opened, right? And I said I thought it would be 3.5. On the road, Miami's struggled against some teams, including last week, right? They pulled away late. Hasn't been great on offense the last couple of games. Still really good, but hasn't been great like it had been, right? So a little bit of signs of struggles there. Defense, we know, is probably going to have some issues against Colin McCord in the passing game. So a 10.5 point line, it seems really big, which actually, and I told the booster this, I said, that actually makes me feel better, because it makes me feel like I'm missing something that they know. And I watched the last quarter of that Syracuse game last week against Connecticut again. And it was a close game. I mean, Connecticut was right there with Syracuse. And then if you watch, there's a catch that Gadsden has where he gets lit up on a short gain, and he goes off to the sidelines and looks banged up. And then, not 1 or 2 plays later, one of their top receivers runs a jet sweep, and he's limping afterwards. So, maybe Vegas knows something we don't, right? Because if 2 of their top 3 targets are not 100%, then that makes sense to me why it's a 10.5 point line. Otherwise, I don't understand it at all, honestly. I don't think in a high-scoring shootout that most people expect that it's quite that big a gap. I mean, that's a huge line against an 8-3 team that's been to a bowl game. This isn't a team that's not good. This is a team that's been to a bowl game. This is going to be the 3rd straight year in a bowl game. It's a very capable team, and there are people out there, it seems the perception is that Miami's sort of not as great as their ranking, right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I've been right every pick this year. I've been right except for one.
Every pick.
I'm 10-1. I'm 10-1 without the spread.
But anyway, so going to be a great weekend. Hopefully up there in Syracuse, and hopefully the Canes bring home the win and keep momentum going for recruiting. Signing day is coming up Wednesday. So on the website right now, we've got a lot of recruiting coverage to take you guys into signing day. We've got some final coverage getting you ready for the game. We've got our You Bet CaneSport show with Lee Sterling up there for you guys to check out. We've got final thoughts from Mario Cristobal as he gets ready for the game. But we've mentioned that there's a lot going on in recruiting, and a lot of it is because the Florida Gators are trying to throw really nuclear bombs into a lot of different recruitments, not just Miami's, others too. They've put together a little war chest up there in Gainesville off of the momentum of their play over the last few weeks, and they're trying to make an impact in recruiting. And they're trying to flip Hilton Stubbs from Miami. Miami's locked in a lot of head-to-head battles with the Gators. for some of these guys that have been committed or seem on the fence. So there's going to be some drama heading up to signing day. We will have it all covered for you at CaneSport.com. But let me talk about some of the other stories that we have on the website right now, because we are also keeping an eye on 2026, because 2026 recruiting is picking up steam. As soon as 2025 ends on the 4th, coaches will be 100% focused on 2026 players. We got a story today on 2026 interior offensive lineman from Baltimore St. Francis, LaMarcus Dillard. Miami offered him in early October. We get an update on what he's thinking about the Canes. We even have a story on a 2028 athlete by the name of Cameron Fuse from Avon Park, Florida. Hurricanes offered him last week, and
he is the best 6-year-old in Pop Warner. I mean, this kid is can't miss prospect. I'm very excited to see his future.
Reminds me of Sony Michel when he was growing up.
Oh my God, those highlights were the sickest thing. His 8th grade highlights were the greatest things in the world, man. He would literally just run over 4 people and just keep going. I mean, those are the best.
Well, Miami saw the highlights and they offered them immediately.
Who wouldn't?
We've got that story for you. We got a story on Chaminade 4-star athlete Brian Junius. He visited Miami last weekend and for the game, and he's high on the Canes as well. We check in with Northwestern, Miami Northwestern 4-star 2026 wide receiver Calvin Russell. Communications remain strong between him and the Canes. He's a priority in this next cycle. They will be there hard after him. We've got an update on Orlando First Academy offensive tackle for 2027 class, Reed Ramsier. Miami's first ACC program to offer Reed, and he tells us his thoughts about that. We also update 4-star edge Hayden Lowe. You'll remember he decommitted from USC and committed to Miami earlier this month, and he tells us why he made that choice and why he thinks it's the right one. We've got that update on the website today as well, and there will be more coming your way. But that's about it for this morning. I mean, what can you say, man? It's in the hands of the Canes now, Matt. Just got to find a way to get this done. This is a unique opportunity. When you have a quarterback like Cam Ward, it takes your team to another level, which it has. This is their chance to fulfill that on Saturday. Just got to find. It doesn't matter what the score is. Just got to find a way to get this one done.
Yeah, look, the motivation certainly is there. What I was talking about earlier, I don't want fans to misconstrue what I was saying earlier. I'm just upset that players are playing for free all of a sudden in the playoffs around the country. I'm not suggesting that Miami players are going to half-ass it. They're certainly not. Okay. But I do think they should be remunerated. Is that a word? Yeah, remunerated. I'm going with that as a word. For playing, if the NCAA is going to do this thing right, they should do it right, period.
You're talking about playing in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah. And even the conference title game. These are extra games guys are playing in for free, right? Based on their NIL deals. So it's not right. But anyway, in terms of this particular game, I'm very curious. Miami players kept talking about how Syracuse plays really hard at home, right? I think one player mentioned that. I think one of the coaches mentioned that. I found that almost like a dig. That's like they don't play hard away. I don't know if they were trying to. I don't know what mental game that is. At all? Like, is that aimed towards Miami players? Like, hey, they play hard at home, so you better be ready to play hard away. I don't know. I have a feeling they were messaging their own players, like, you better be ready for like a crazy fight. And then some reporter asked about the dome noise, that the noise bounces off the ceiling. Like, I don't understand these questions from reporters anymore. Like, because they're in a dome, it's like you can't hear anything. Like, you may as well, have noise-canceling headphones on every single player on the field because it's so deafening, because there's a ceiling up there. I mean, that's literally what they were asked.
I don't know that this will be the case Saturday, but I remember being there for the Donovan McNabb game where the electricity in that place was unbelievable. His final home game at Syracuse. Yeah. And you couldn't, it was unbelievable. This
is Colin McCord's final home game. I don't think it's going to be the same as Donovan McNabb's final home game.
It will not be the same.
But yeah, and I've covered games there. it's not like it's loud, but there's plenty of loud stadiums. Okay, just because it's a dome,
crowd noise to be a big problem.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they're making way too much out of that. And then people ask about the snow. They're playing in a dome. I mean, I don't understand these reporters anymore. I mean,
it would be a factor if it was hard to get around and stuff, but it's not going to be. There's not going to be.
Only going to be a few snow. I mean, I get it. You want to ask a player, have you seen snow before? I don't know whether that's, we have literally 4 minutes with a player to talk to them after practice. And like, you're going to ask them about seeing snow when they're playing the biggest game in Miami's history, dating probably to 2003. Because in 2017, I don't know. 2017 felt different, right? Because you knew back then there was only 2 teams going to the national championship, and you knew Miami probably wasn't going to be one of them at that point, right? But now you got 12 teams. You just want to make the playoffs. So like there should be more excitement and more recognition that there's more to play for this year than there was in 2017. So to me, this is the biggest final regular season game since 2002. Sorry, did I say 2003 before? 2002. You can disagree with me if you want to say 2017 was bigger, but I think with the playoff system, that makes this a much bigger game for Miami, especially considering the direction Miami wants to go with Mario Cristobal and the NIL deals and the job he's doing so far. I mean, I don't know that he gets enough credit, honestly. I know fans like to complain. Maybe, like me, I love complaining. That's my thing. It makes me very happy to complain. But if you look at it objectively, the job Mario's done is exactly what we wanted to see when he took the job, right? We said there has to be upward. You can't just be here and stay here. You can't be here and go down. And if you just look at wins and losses, he's gone up. Even if they lose this game, I know fans will be really mad and upset if they lose this game, especially if he does something that they think was wrong, right? Which tends to happen in close games, hypothetically. And you can say, why did he go for it on this 4th down? Or why did he kick that field goal? Or why didn't he do this? Or why didn't he do that? I get it. In close games, you always are going to blame coaches. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens in this game, you have to acknowledge objectively, no matter whether you are a huge Hurricanes fan who wants them to win every game or not, that he has the program going in the right direction. And then the challenge, no matter what happens in this game, is to get to that 11 wins, 12 wins, whatever it may be, and then you can plateau. Then it's okay to plateau. What you don't want to do is the bouncing around that you see a lot of these other programs doing, where they hit it in the portal one year, and then the next year the portal guys, they just don't mesh right. And then the year after that, maybe they get some portal guys that are much better, or some recruits have come through now that are good. Then those guys go to the NFL, and now you're back to square zero. Mario is trying to find that balance. And I'll tell you right now, this is a deep, dark secret. I'm going to share this deep, dark secret. But Gary and I, the other day, pre-Thanksgiving, we went through the roster of Mario's recruits. And the guys that we know already are really, really good. There aren't a lot of them. There aren't a lot of them that are proven that we know are really, really good at this point, that can play at a really high level consistently, right? That number needs to exponentially grow to hit that plateau at the 11 win, 12 win, 13 win, et cetera spot. And we don't know. Like, the future is a mystery, right? It's like the dogs in Chernobyl. I read a story a few days ago. These Chernobyl dogs are evolving, to deal with the radiation. They look different and they act different than dogs just 10 miles away that are wild dogs, right? The frogs in the Chernobyl lakes have a different color skin now that scientists think actually helps them get rid of the radiation that is in the area, And the question now is, does Mario's dogs evolve, right? Do these players who describe themselves as dogs, do they evolve and stay at that high level and become, that nuclear bomb? Is this a terrible analogy? Probably. They become that nuclear bomb that blows up college football, where they're the new Alabama, they're the new Ohio State. Miami's the new, you name that program that's been great in the past. So, that's what I want to see. I like covering teams that are really, really good. It's a lot more fun than covering teams that are bad and having fans complaining and having a delete message board posts cursing everybody and everything in the world, because kids reading the posts. So I'm rooting for this thing to work out. But I think beyond this game, it's no matter what, win this game, lose this game, win the next game, lose the next game, the future is as cloudy as a mushroom cloud. We don't know what it's going to look like next year. All these guys that were transfer portal guys, except for maybe a couple of them, are gone. Cam Ward is gone. What's next? I'm as excited as I am nervous to see that. So, while you guys were all celebrating Thanksgiving, I was pondering the future, the murkiness of the future. I was pondering, why aren't players paid to play extra games versus players who don't make the postseason and are not having to, risk their bodies? These are the things I was doing sitting on a couch with everyone ignoring me, as most fans should do to me, by the way. I don't understand why fans actually even post comments to me on YouTube channel. I mean, you know, Lance Guidry knows I'm a moron. I don't understand why people out there don't realize it yet.
All right, well, I think we've said all we could say and then some today. So that's going to do it for this morning for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you guys so much for starting out your day with us. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, there's no better time than now with the big game this weekend, recruiting, signing day, the portal coming up. Come on over to CaneSport.com and get yourself a subscription. We got some good specials going on right now as well for new subscribers. So come check it out. We will see what happens on Saturday when the Canes play Syracuse. We'll obviously have a ton of coverage for you guys through the weekend into next week. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks once again for starting your day out with us today, and we'll see you next time, everybody.